Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Dandy Dungeon, Legend of Brave Yamada. Dandy Dungeon is a puzzle-solving dungeon crawler that thrusts players into the role of Yamada, a game developer who works for a terrible company, creating his own games in his spare time, and his underwear. While he's bashing away at the keyboard, real life keeps encroaching on his development time, so he begins incorporating elements from his real life into the game. Dandy Dungeon is a deceptively simple game. You spend your time going from dungeon to dungeon, creating a path for Yamada to follow to the exit of each level. Once you've drawn the path using either the Switch touchscreen or the controller's analog stick, everything happens automatically. Yamada follows the path, picking up treasure and attacking enemies until he either reaches the goal or dies trying. There's a twist though. If you hit every single tile in the dungeon on your way to the exit, you'll earn a gold bonus. Also, you'll take damage for each open tile you missed. So while getting from the beginning to the end of any particular level can be as simple as walking in a straight line, you're going to want to figure out how to hit each tile along the way, which can be a little trickier than it first appears, thanks to walls and, later on, water tiles that you can't step on that impede your path. What starts out as feeling like a very simple gameplay loop ends up feeling quite compelling. It's easy to draw a line at the goal, but can be quite tricky figuring out how to go all the way around a level, which is why I called Dandy Dungeon a puzzle game when I started this video. It's never hugely taxing, at least not in the opening few hours, but it is quite satisfying to see the path, draw the path, and then watch Yamada follow the path, cutting down all the monsters and obstacles in his way as he gets one step closer to rescuing his princess. There are a few niggling issues in how it's designed, however. After a certain amount of time in the plot, the game adds traps to its levels. Booby trap tiles that contain bear traps that damage Yamada, or sleep tiles that stun him for a few turns. These tiles feel unnecessary at best and downright cruel at worst. They don't really impede you all that much, and it's not like you have the option to avoid them given you're actively trying to hit every tile in a level. Dandy Dungeon also adds a timer to its planning phase fairly early on. I get why the timer was added, so you can't simply brute force a puzzle solution by trying all the possible moves, but the timer also doesn't start until you stop moving your arrow. So what ends up happening is that you'll stare at the screen for a couple of minutes, mentally mapping out the path you want to take, before simply drawing it out on the screen, which is tough for someone like me, whose brain doesn't quite work like that. I'm probably in the minority, but giving players an option to disable the timer would have improved my experience quite a bit. Dandy Dungeon isn't entirely without player input once Yamada starts moving, as you'll have access to a hotbar of items such as medicine or spells that can be the difference between reaching a goal or not. You're also able to equip and upgrade weapons and armour to buff Yamada's attack and defense. It's in its upgrade and loot system where Dandy Dungeon's roots as a mobile game show through a little. Progress is lightning quick at first, with you able to level up your weapons and armour insanely fast. Once you get so far, however, progress slows significantly, and there are certain milestones where you'll need to find specific materials to continue to be able to upgrade a weapon or piece of armour, which means grinding past dungeons for sometimes rare crafting materials. It could have been a deal breaker, but thankfully Dandy Dungeon tells you exactly where to look for any specific material, and you'll generally be clearing entire dungeons in just a few minutes, so it's not a major pain having to grind out that one thing you need to upgrade your flaming sword or frying pan. I also wanted to touch on the absurdist fiction that is Dandy Dungeon's story, as much as it has a story, because I really appreciated the small scenes between running dungeons that advance the plot. Whether it's Yamada's douchey boss who seems to sing most of his dialogue, or his work friend who busts into his apartment offering proclamations of doom, such as the door-to-door saleswoman who's going to take over the world, most of the scenes in Dandy Dungeon had me smiling or chuckling at their absurdity. It's National Lampoon does video game development, although some of its parody doesn't really land too well. Yamada attempting to win the heart of his new neighbour by making her a damsel in his game did have me rolling my eyes a bit. Dandy Dungeon is a pretty cool dungeon crawler with a puzzle game-like twist. Its bite-sized levels are the perfect size to keep you occupied while you're travelling or just have a little time to kill with a game of something, though it doesn't quite hold up to longer extended play sessions quite so well. Its concept is simple enough that you can pick it up and immediately understand it, and it challenges you just enough to keep you on your toes as you try to map out a path through its various levels. All in all, Dandy Dungeon is a fairly solid game that I'd recommend you have a look at if you're in the mood for something a little different from your dungeon crawlers. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave us a comment, like, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got tons of awesome videos coming every week, including review impressions, indie game of the week, debate-driven top 5 lists, video essays, and our weekly podcast where we discuss games, gaming culture, and the games industry. We also stream 3 times a week at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. But most importantly, have a fantastic day.